Welcome into the Sports 2.0 show, This Week in Sports. Got a quick little breakdown. I am your host, Alec Busse, joined by the one and only Ryan. Ryan, how are we doing today on this fine afternoon?
Doing great. How are you, Alec?
I'm doing really well. Got some stuff on my plate that I wasn't planning to have on my plate at the beginning of the day, but I always like being busy. I always like having more things thrown at me, so I'm doing well. How was your weekend? I know it's Tuesday, but you want to relive that briefly here?
Weekend, yeah. Honestly, what did I do? I went out with my friends and spent some time with my family. It was my cousin's wedding, actually, so
Wow.
it was great. We had a great time. Big celebration. So it was an eventful weekend. What about you?
Congratulations, first of all, on the wedding. That's awesome. Happy for your family. So I just got back from vacation, actually. I was in the U.S. Virgin Islands with my family, so hopefully you can tell I got a little bit tanner. Maybe
Yeah,
not. I don't
sure.
know. But no, it was a great vacation, much needed relaxation, especially after the last, year and a half with COVID. I feel like no one really got an opportunity to be off on their own and kind of enjoy vacation for the last year. And it was really nice to be able to do that. Anyway, let's get into this conversation of This Week in Sports. We're going to focus on the NBA primarily in this show, and then we're going to focus on something a little bit outside the box that probably doesn't get very much attention on other shows. So let's start with the Eastern Conference Finals. They are entering Game 4 tonight. We've seen the Hawks fall down to the series 2-1 after taking the first game of the series 116-113 in Milwaukee. Since then, really, the Bucks have dominated this series. Won the second game 125-91, and then won the third game 113-102 in Atlanta. Ryan, where are you at with this series? I feel like this is a real turning point in this series for the Hawks, who have made this miraculous Cinderella run to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think the Bucks have really taken control over the series. The Hawks have been a great story all year, great surprise team. I just think the Bucks are just too much, and I don't think they have enough experience to get over the hump. But who knows? Maybe tonight they'll shock the world. I love the defensive game plan that Mike Budenholzer has implemented on Trae Young. I mean, after he exploded in Game 1, he really put the clamps on him, throwing PJ Tucker at him, Chris Middleton, very long physical bodies. So I think that's paid dividends for the Bucks.
Yeah, you mentioned the way that they've defended Trae Young. He's shooting just 31.4% from three-point land in this series, and he's still averaging over 30 points a game, but obviously that's really being supported right now from that Game 1 performance that you kind of mentioned. I'm happy you brought up PJ Tucker and Chris Middleton and the way that they've defended him. The size of those two seems to really be bothering Trae Young, especially on the perimeter, and they've done a really good job, in my opinion, of keeping him outside of the paint. That's something that a lot of teams have struggled with Trae Young is their ability. He's such a good shooter, especially from the perimeter, that he knows he kind of has to balance that ability to shoot it from the perimeter to get inside and hit floaters and finish it around the rim. Well, the Bucks have taken away his ability to, get to the rim and get inside the paint, and now he's being forced to just take a lot of shots that are contested really deep. And PJ Tucker and Chris Middleton deserve a lot of credit for that, so I'm happy you brought him up. Now, I think if the Hawks are going to be able to kind of get this series back in their favor, tie this thing up at 2-2 after Game 4, they're going to need Kevin Huerter to kind of start to get hot a little bit from beyond the arc. He's shooting just 33% from three as well. He's averaging just 10.7 points a game. And we saw up to the Eastern Conference Finals how important he was for the Hawks to get here. And he was huge for them, especially when they were able to advance out of the semifinals. What do you think the Hawks need from Kevin Huerter in the rest of the series to potentially swing this back in their favor?
Honestly, you know what they say, it's a make or miss league. I'm glad you brought up Huerter. I think Bogdanovic is also another player that needs to step up. He's been huge for them all postseason. Gallinari has been playing great. Lou Williams has seemed to find the fountain of youth. It all starts with penetration. I'm glad you brought that up. If Trae Young can get in the lane, it'll not only open up floaters for him, but it'll open up open shots for his teammates. And you saw with the Hawks, it just takes one shot for them to get hot. I'm going to look for tonight to see if they are able to get in the lane, and if they are, how good of a looks are they getting from the perimeter? And I think if they do that, I think they have a puncher's chance tonight.
Yeah, and the other thing with the Hawks being able to get into the paint, they've got such a really good rebounder in there in Clint Capella. I mean, he's got over, I think, what is it, 12 rebounds a game in the series right now. And you look at how efficient he's been all year and really his entire career rebounding offensively. They need the extra possessions because they've struggled so much to stop Giannis and Chris Middleton, especially in the second half with Middleton. And if you're able to just get those extra possessions and you're able to capitalize on those, I think it'd be huge for Atlanta tonight in a game that honestly is probably a must win if you're a Hawks fan. I think tonight you have to feel like, well, if we fall down 3-1, you're not going to be able to overcome Giannis and Chris Middleton the way they're playing. And Chris Middleton to me has been the highlight of this series for the Hawks. I mean, we've seen him average over 20 points a game. He's shooting 43% from the field. He's getting over 7 rebounds a game. And what he did in the fourth quarter of game 3 was truly incredible, scoring close to 20 points. And he really got the Bucks over the hump in that game. And I know people were kind of on Giannis's case about why is Giannis, the 2-time MVP of the NBA, not the one with the ball, not the one taking over the game in the fourth quarter. Ryan, I don't know about you, but I just don't subscribe to that whole kind of mindset of if you're the best player, you need to be the one taking all the shots, making all the big plays, because Chris Middleton was hot and Chris Middleton was scoring, and Chris Middleton's a great player. I mean, he's on Team USA this summer.
I definitely see what you're saying. I think in Giannis's case, I think it's different because he's a big, he's not a shooter. So I could definitely see what you're saying from that point. But if you're a guard, for example, like Trae Young, or LeBron, or Booker, or Chris Paul, or any star guard in the NBA, I think that's when, and you're a superstar in this league, I think that's when you got to really take control and take the last shot and take control over the game in crunch time. But in the Bucks case, they have the luxury of having multiple players that can close for them. My only question about the Bucks is how consistent can Middleton be? I know he's been great this series, but in past series he's struggled against the Nets. So I mean, we'll see if the Bucks do end up advancing to the finals. Will the moment be too much for him? It's a wait and see process. First, though, they have to get by the Hawks. They can't overlook Atlanta. They've been a great team all year, so it starts tonight.
Yeah, I think tonight, if Milwaukee's able to get out of Atlanta with back-to-back wins and they take a 3-1 series lead, I think that you're going to look at them and be like, all right, they've basically locked up their spot in the finals. And to keep it going with the 3-1, we saw the Suns take a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals. They lost last night. Paul George played incredible, made 15 of 21 shots. I think it was just an incredibly efficient night for him. He had over 40 points as well. The Suns, to me, if they blow this 3-1 lead, it's going to be on the back of Paul George doing that 3 more times for the Clippers. And I just think that's because he doesn't have enough help right now. I don't expect Kawhi Leonard to come back. I think the way that the Clippers have handled this entire Kawhi Leonard situation is just so interesting. I think it's very clear he's not coming back. He's not going. And I have no insight telling me this. I don't cover the NBA. I'm not Woj. I'm not Shams. I don't know. Maybe he comes back. I don't know. But I don't expect it to happen. I think that Paul George has the ability to get this to a game 7. But I just think Chris Paul's got to get to a finals at some point. And the Suns have the tools to do it. I mean, Devin Booker's a really good young player. He's a really good shooter. And I'll be honest with you, Ryan, DeAndre Ayton has blown me away in this series in the way he's played. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, he's going to be a max contract player this offseason.
I agree. I think Ayton's been playing great ever since the start of the playoffs against the Lakers. I know AD was hobbled, but he really took advantage of that matchup in what seemed like a lopsided matchup for him. So I mean, yeah, Ayton's been playing great all season. I love Booker. He's been doing great, and I just ever since he broke his nose, though, it seems like the mask has been bothering him. I know he's not making an excuse, but it's human nature. I mean, you've been playing with a mask your entire life, and now you're wearing this mask that fogs you up, gets you sweaty. Meanwhile, Patrick Beverley's in your ear the whole time. So I mean, that doesn't do him any favors. That's why I think Chris Paul has to step up, and I think he can do it. Even though Chris Paul hasn't made it to the finals in his career, he has been a clutch player. I just think he's been snake bitten by a very unfortunate injuries. So I mean, we'll see. I would be absolutely shocked if the Suns blew a 3-1 series lead and lost the series. But we'll see. I mean, kudos to Paul George. He took a lot of heat in game 2 for missing those free throws. Same thing, I believe it was in game 3. He also missed some clutch free throws. But, I mean, he's responded. He's been resilient. And without Kawhi Leonard, you got to give him credit for keeping the Clippers in it.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned the way that Patrick Beverley has guarded Devin Booker. Devin Booker basically sends a broken nose. And, that's one, difficult to play with. Obviously, it affects your breathing. 2, you mentioned all the problems with the mask. And, 3, it's just difficult to play in the NBA when you're being guarded by someone like Patrick Beverley, who just puts all of his time and energy into being a really good defender. And he's done a great job of defending Devin Booker across the board, and he deserves a lot of credit for doing that. With that being said, I think the Suns are going to be able to find a way to get creative and get Devin Booker more involved and get him more open shots. I think that that's really important for the Suns to be able to kind of not let this get to a game 7 and feel like they don't have any momentum. I think having Devin Booker confident in making shots is really important. And I think a lot of that just goes from getting him involved with different actions. I know this is a really specific example, but that buzzer beater halftime shot he had last night where they were able to get it to him on that inbound pass as he's gets his defender off the V cut, and then Ayton sets a screen and he's able to pump fake on the wing behind the 3-point line and get that shot. That's a really specific example that you're not going to be able to replicate a lot, but that's just something that I think the Suns could build off of and try and get him more open shots. And Chris Paul's really good at that too. And really the biggest thing for Chris Paul too, I think, is just getting back into shape. I mean, missing the 10 days he did with the COVID protocols is huge. I think we've seen him struggle to make shots, especially in game 3 in LA. He really struggled to make shots out there. So I think it's going to be really important for the Suns to not let LA feel like they have all the momentum in this series going into a game 7. I think that that's really important. And I know game 7's still in Phoenix, but I don't think you want this Clippers team, who probably still has the best player on the court at this point, to feel like that they can steal this from you in a game 7.
I agree. Honestly, another point that I failed to mention earlier is I think the Clippers respond best when they have nothing to lose and the pressure's not on them. You saw in the Utah series when it was 2-2, Kawhi's out. Everyone picked them to lose the series. I mean, no one expected the Clippers to win. They win back-to-back games. You look at this series, they're down 3-1. I mean, everyone's riding them out. Obviously, it's only one game, but you saw Paul George play his best. I think as long as the Clippers can just kind of build off the momentum that they did from game 5, I think they'll have a chance to push the game to 7, the series to 7 games. And the pressure is really on the Suns in game 6. I mean, like I said, the Clippers have nothing to lose. They don't have their best player. They have no business really even being here, to be honest, considering their best player isn't playing. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But like I said, I think the Clippers play best when they have nothing to lose and they just kind of just swing. I mean, Charles Barkley even brought it up. The pressure is really on the Suns. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and one more quick thing before we get to our final topic that I kind of keep on teasing is that if you're the Suns, I think the importance of game 6 is so big for them because they've never been to this point. And like you said with the Clippers, they're really resilient and they seem to play their best when their backs are against the wall and everyone's doubting them. And quite frankly, let's be honest, they deserve to be doubted with how disappointing they were in the bubble last year and really how disappointing they were all regular season, and the whole purposely losing to avoid the Lakers in the second round, like all of these different things that have surrounded the Clippers in the last year, 2 years, right? Like they deserve to have this kind of like thought process around them. Like, you don't deserve the credit that we gave you immediately. And Ty Lue deserves a lot of credit for the things that he's been able to do to get them to this point in the Western Conference Finals after being down in back-to-back series 2-0. They're the first team to ever win 2 series in a row in NBA playoff history after being down 2-0. And if they win 3 in a row, I mean, good God, Ty Lue deserves a huge raise. And doing it without Kawhi Leonard against Utah, a very good Utah team, I would like to add. And then being able to do it against the Suns team, too, in the Western Conference Finals when you don't have home court would just be incredible. So, yeah, I think that the Clippers have their back against the wall, and they've been really resilient all playoffs. But I'm really interested to see if they're going to be able to keep it going. And I also just really am interested to see how the Suns try and guard Paul George, because I think that that's going to be the most interesting aspect of what they're going to try and do, because now you've had him tear you up in one game. And you know that the Clippers are going to try and keep doing that. So how do you guard Paul George to slow him down and make him not efficient like he was earlier in the series?
That's a great point. I'm glad you brought up Ty Lue. I don't think he gets enough credit. I mean, when he won that title with the Cavs, everyone's kind of praising LeBron, and I mean, rightfully so. He had a great series. Same with Kyrie Irving. But ultimately, it was Ty Lue who was the coach who brought them back from 3-1. He instilled confidence in his guys. Even just this year, you look at the Sixers with Doc Rivers, the Clippers' former coach. He let's be honest, the Sixers choked, and I know Doc Rivers won a championship with the Celtics in 2008, but that's 13 years ago. I mean, times have changed. You've seen Doc Rivers choke with the Clippers too in the bubble last year, up 3-1. I mean, I wouldn't. It may be far-fetched to say, but I don't see that Clippers team last year blowing a 3-1 series lead if Ty Lue was their coach.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen comments come out about Ty Lue and how they call him Belichick because of the adjustments he makes, whether it's at halftime or in between games. And Ty Lue was great in Cleveland, like you mentioned. Like, I mean, after they fired David Blatt, after that experiment blew up in their face, I mean, Ty Lue was the obvious choice. And I was surprised that the Lakers made the decision to hire Frank Vogel last summer instead of hiring, Ty Lue, because it was just like a logical hire, in my opinion, to hire Ty Lue. I don't know. But let's get to this final topic. Team USA, the women's gymnastics team, one of everyone's favorite, Olympic sports, especially in the summer, is the women's gymnastics team. At least it's one of my favorites. I know people like swim. I know people like following the basketball as well. We've done enough basketball talk today, Ryan. Let's talk about a little bit of a different sport, one that doesn't always get the most attention. The U.S. women's team is finalized after the Olympic trials in St. Louis. Of course, Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast of all time. Jade Carey is a alternate or whatever. She's there just in case something happens. Jordan Childs, she really impressed me. She was really consistent on Sunday night with the Olympic trials. Suni Lee was incredible on the beam, and her bars routine is one of the best, according to what they were saying on NBC. Nastia Lukin, of course, commentating. Grace McCollin, also one of the alternates, along with Jade Carey and Michaela Skinner, who was also in Rio. Simone Biles, though, how can we not talk about her? I mean, she's like so far past her prime. She's still the world's greatest gymnast. She struggled so much on Sunday, was not happy with her performance on the vault. She fell off the beam. She nearly went into the bars, but then she goes on and does her floor routine and just smacks it home, and she still finishes with the most points, and she looks primed to get another gold medal, not just in the team, but also in the individual areas as well at the Olympics. And she just deserves so much credit, and she's just an incredible athlete.
I agree. I don't think she gets enough credit. I mean, I wouldn't put her on this level yet, but I mean, she may end up being the Michael Phelps of gymnastics. I mean, she's incredible to watch. I'm not much of a gymnast fan, to be honest, but I mean, it's hard not to tune in when she's out there. So I mean, I love watching her, especially, and I'm really looking forward to the Olympics.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Olympics. One of my favorite things, definitely a dream of mine, is to be able to go see the Olympics in person someday. And you mentioned, like the Simone Biles, and if she's in the conversation with Michael Phelps, man, Ryan, I think she might have surpassed Michael Phelps in terms of her achievements in her sport. I know Michael Phelps has the most Olympic medals of all time, but there's just so many more medals you can get in swimming than you can in gymnastics. And she's like a 7-time world champion, which is just incredible. And the thing she's accomplished, and she's going to throw a move off the vault at the Olympics that has never been done by another woman in any competition, as far as I know of. It's going to eventually get named after her. It's called something like the double turnpike or something like that. I don't know. I don't understand all the moves. They move too fast in the air for me to kind of see it all. I need to see it in like super, super slow-mo to understand how many twists and flips they do. But it's just incredible to me what Team USA has been able to overcome in the last 3-4 years with all of the sexual abuse stuff with Larry Nassar, and to see Simone Biles still leading this team, and to see another one, Michaela Skinner, come back and make it back to the Olympics again for the second time. And you see these new faces too, like a Jordan Childs, a Suni Lee, and it's great to see that USA Gymnastics has hopefully put that ugly chapter in their past, and they're able to go hopefully win another gold medal and represent our country well in Tokyo, because I think that that's something that we can all kind of rally behind, no matter what it is. It's just country pride.
I agree. There's nothing like watching the Olympics and rooting for your native country. I think it's great to watch. Obviously, unfortunately, because of COVID, the Olympics got postponed. But I'm really looking forward to this summer. It should be a great Olympics.
That's all the time we're going to have on today's show. Ryan, appreciate you joining me as always. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I think we covered most of it. I really enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for hosting, Alec. I'm really looking forward to our next show.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to follow the Sports 2.0 Network on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever social media you use. We are on there. You can follow us on Twitter as well. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you next time on the Sports 2.0 show. Thank you for watching.